Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Brad Jenkins. I'm the DNA program manager. Thank you for joining us remotely. I've got two people I want y'all to meet. Beth Ballard is here, and she'll come over here in just a minute. And then Kathy Shannon. And Kathy Shannon is, well, Beth is my assistant technical lead for the state. And Kathy Shannon is our scientist who did the validation for the Wi-Fi filer. And so I want to have them come over and introduce themselves just so you see who they are, see a face. But thank you very much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Hello, I'm Beth Ballard. I'm the assistant tech lead for the state, as Brad mentioned, and it's nice to see and meet each of you. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Shannon. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I will, the first item for me to do is to call the meeting of the Forensic Biology Subcommittee to order. So I will do that. I would like to reiterate that the department has asked me to advise that this meeting is being recorded. And the first thing we'd like to do is to ask Ms. Taylor to take a roll call to confirm that there is a quorum present.
All right. Dr. Corrado.
Here.
Dr. Cotton. Dr. Maha.
I'm here.
Kristen Schelling.
I'm present.
All right, Ms. Chairman, we have a quorum present.
Okay, thank you. I will just remind everyone that when you speak, if you're speaking, to please state your name beforehand so that Ms. Taylor has the information for the purposes of the minutes. And also remind everyone to mute your microphone when you're not speaking, but I see everyone's got that down by now, so that's great. The first order of business today will be to adopt the agenda for the meeting. But the first thing, everyone should have received a copy of the meeting agenda from Ms. Taylor. And actually, the first thing I have to do is ask to amend the agenda. And I would like to amend the agenda to include approval of the minutes of the last meeting of the biology subcommittee, which was on May 15th, 2018. So I would like to add that as the first order of agenda, or excuse me, as add that to the agenda. So does anyone have any other changes or amendments to the agenda at this time? No, hearing none, I will ask for a motion to adopt the draft agenda with the addition of the approval of the minutes.
This is Kristen Schelling. I'll move.
I'll second.
Thank you. And Ms. Taylor, can you please take a roll call vote for adoption of the agenda?
All right, Dr. Corrado.
Yes.
Dr. Maha.
Yes.
Ms. Schelling.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so on our new agenda, the first item of business will be to approve the draft minutes from the May 15th, 2018 Forensic Biology Subcommittee meeting. You all should have received the link from Ms. Taylor to review those meeting minutes. And I would ask if there are any proposed changes to the meeting minutes. Hearing none, if there are no amendments, I will ask for a motion to approve the draft minutes.
I'll motion to approve the draft minutes.
Thank you. And I'd ask for a second.
And this is Kristen. I will second.
Thank you. And Ms. Taylor, could you please take a roll call vote for approval of the May 15th, 2018 minutes?
Dr. Corrado.
Yes.
Dr. Maha.
Yes.
Ms. Shelling?
I will abstain because I was not at the meeting.
Okay, the
Okay.
motion passes.
Thank you. All right, now the next order of business is discussion of the validation of the YSTR half reactions on the 3500 genetic analyzer and performance checks from the 4 laboratories. And I will now turn it over to Mr. Jenkins to provide a summary of the documentation. And we, after his summary, we're welcome to ask questions and provide comments and make recommendations if we see fit.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody hear me okay? Very good. So what we have done is we have used YSTR since 2008. We've used the same kit, the Y-Filer kit. In 2008, we validated the kit to go with our 3130 instrumentation. And so we've simply made a move to a different instrument, the 3500. And so we're retiring the 3130s. We're using the same kit, the Y-Filer kit. And we've also moved to half reactions. And what our typical validation looks like is that we will do the validation here in Richmond, and then we will do performance checks in our 4 laboratories, including the Richmond lab. But you'll see performance checks from Eastern, Western, and Northern as well in the packet of information that was sent to you. There are 18 validation summaries. We typically do 1 topic per summary. There are a couple of summaries that have multiple topics in them as well. Kathy Shannon is our one who did the validation. She's also the one who helped with our training of our examiners in the regional labs as well. And so with that, we will open it up to if you guys have questions. We'll be happy to answer those. If you have suggested edits, we'll be also happy to speak about those as well.
Say, I had one looking at your write-up on the it's the concordance, contamination, assessment, and reproducibility. That particular document. You were
Yes.
you were talking about the contamination assessment, and I was just curious. You had this single allele that was reproducible, and you describe it as an allele. I was curious, was it actually a named allele, or was it an off-ladder, callable peak? What was the allele that you were looking at?
This is Kathy. That was an actual allele observed in the reagent blank for one of the bone samples tested.
Okay. Okay, so it was actually a callable allele then. The software was actually calling it as an allele?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was just trying to clarify. But when you did it with the full reaction volume, you also found a single allele, but it was different. Was it similar though in the same region of the electropherogram, or was it completely different?
It was a different allele. I'd have to look up to see how far apart.
I guess what I'm saying is that was at a different locus. Was it?
Yes.
Okay, so it was a different locus.
I'd have to check on that. You want me to look?
Yeah, I don't need to know what it is. I was just asking just trying to get a little more definition on it. I was just trying to be critical of the review in case you have to defend this at some point, and wanted to get some more information on what this contaminant was. Not not surprising to see it in a bone extract. I've had to deal with these too, the mystery alleles. That's what I was looking for at any rate, is just a little more description of what it was you were looking at in this contaminant.
Dr. Maha, if you like, we can get a PDF of the allele and kind of email that to you so you can see it, or at least tell you what the called allele was. That's something we can gather, after our meeting today and send out. We can send it to all three of you if you'd like to see it, but we certainly can get you some more info on that if that would suffice.
That would suffice. I was just curious what you were looking at in there when you described it as an allele. I'm more used to seeing things that are not, they're high peaks but not called, so I was just curious what you were looking at.
Yep, we'll send that to you.
Yeah. I also think it's documentation you should have. Again, just trying to be devil's advocate, I wanted to make sure you were prepared to answer that question if you were ever asked.
Right. Even though it was called an allele, I guess we couldn't just one peak. We wouldn't be able to rule out some type of bacterial contamination. It just happens to be, migrating to the same area that you would see an allele as well.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree with that assessment that it's probably. It's an allele of unknown origin, and it could be bacteria or anything else.
Right. Very good.
Does anyone else have any comments?
I have one comment or question related to the statewide averaging the RFUs based on the results of each lab or the level of detection. And I read that it was all of the averages, obviously the sensitivities were conducted at each laboratory and then averaged statewide. Is that what I understood to be correct?
I didn't catch all of that.
Sorry. So for the RFU level of detection, did I understand correctly that the sensitivity was done at each laboratory and then averaged for a statewide protocol?
Yes, on each instrument.
Okay. And so the only lab that, when looking at the data, blue and green for the northern lab seems to exceed the average. Do you guys anticipate any issues with that?
It's possible, right, that lab could exceed the average slightly. It doesn't rule out, I guess, being able to designate a possible allele as an artifact if it's seen. These values are going to capture the noise most of the time, maybe not every single time. So I probably not, I guess, unusual that once in a while you might see something higher, but based on its shape and position, whether it's inhibited or between loci, you still might be able to identify it properly so that it doesn't cause interpretation problems.
Thank you, that makes sense.
Yeah, Kristen, we've been online with it for a while already, and we haven't really noticed any issues so far, but we realize that we may have to go back and revisit some of these values if the instrument would ever, for whatever reason, change a laser or something like that, it becomes a noisier instrument that we may have to go in and do some edits to these values. They're not set in stone. But so far they've been working well. But it is something that we would have to look at. We also would reevaluate a stochastic threshold as well if we need to do anything with that. So that's a good question.
Thank you.
Okay, George, would you mind muting your microphone, please? Thank you. I don't have any questions. I would just like to say that I thought the validation was extremely thorough. It was actually a pleasure for me to read through it. As someone that sometimes inspects laboratories, I felt that anything that I thought could have been done was. So that was really nice to see. So I appreciate that, and especially the mixtures, the male to male, the female to male. It's nice to see that for Y-filer as well. And I was just, my only question was, I guess what you sort of just said, but I assumed you were using it in casework and just wondering how that's going. Have you had any issues or not?
No, so far it has been working well for casework. I would mention that we're now moving Y-filer to all of our labs. So when we were online with the 3130, we did Ys here at the Richmond lab, and we just did it at the Northern lab. And so we have found out now that since we are triaging more PERT kits with a direct to DNA type approach, the PERT kits are sexual assault kits here in Virginia, that we're having more cases that we need to do YSTRs on. And so we're also, so Western and Eastern will be coming online with YSTR testing as well. So far so good. The more the merrier. So the staff, the Eastern group and the Western group, they would just send their extracts either to the central lab or to the Northern lab, so that it gives us less travel time for court for our examiners here in Richmond. I had to drive down to one of the regional labs for court. So that is part of the validation effort, is to expand as well, and it's going well. Thank you for asking.
Great. Yeah, and in our laboratory, we're actually using YSTRs a little bit more than we were before, mostly to kind of determine how many males we have in mixtures. Now that we're evaluating more mixture samples, we're finding that sometimes just doing the Ys helps us determine how many males might be there. So probably you're ending up doing that as well. Are there any other comments for this review of the Y-filer validation half reactions? Hearing none, I would ask if there's a motion to close the review of this validation study.
I'll move. This is Kristen.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Ms. Taylor, may you please take a roll call vote?
Dr. Corrado,
Yes.
Dr. Maha,
Yes.
Ms. Shelling,
Yes.
the motion passes.
Thank you. All right. At this time, I would ask if there's any members of the public that would like to provide a comment. Hearing none, I believe that concludes the agenda for this morning. And I would ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll motion we adjourn.
Kristen will second.
All right, and I ask Ms. Taylor to take a roll call.
All right, Dr. Corrado,
Yes.
Dr. Maha,
Yes.
Ms. Shelling.
Yes.
All right, it passes.
All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for attending, and I will probably see you at the next meeting at 10 o'clock.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.